Welcome to another Founder Wisdom Pod. We have Natalie Bourne with us today. She is a strategy and product consultant, facilitator, keynote speaker, podcaster. We're going to talk about that today. And also founder at Innovation Meets Leadership and author. Her book is called Set It on Fire, The Art of Innovation. So fired up to have her on today. This podcast is brought to you by Podfire. If you want to start, scale, be invited to podcasts like this one or find sponsors even. Podcasts are quite amazing to meet new people, grow your network. We're networked too because you can get leads and clients off these podcasts. So podfire.com for that. Nat, welcome to the pod. Can you tell me a bit more about yourself and Innovation Meets Leadership?
Hey there. Yeah, thanks for having me, Charles, man. It's great to be here with you. And yeah, I basically, growing up in my career, my background was in product development, helped to kind of collaborate on several different patents, helped to collaborate kind of in the innovation space for some large organizations that also spanned across, multinationals and things like that. And one of the things I realized is that if you lack leadership and innovation, you will get your lunch eaten when it comes to your competition. And so that made me branch out into starting my consulting practice, Innovation Meets Leadership. It also is what caused me to write the book, Set It on Fire, The Art of Innovation. It's all about helping people to not only think outside the box, but not to get left behind with the solutions that they're bringing to the table. Because as we know, business moves fast. Now there's AI. There's all these things that are happening around us. And if we wait, we get taken over by the tidal wave.
Wow. Okay, let's start with the company. Why did you decided to shift from the corporate world to owning your own company?
Yeah, I think there comes a point maybe in everybody's life where they look at their background, they look at their experience and what they've accomplished, and they have this thought of, man, could I be doing more? Could I be helping more people? Could I be working in different industries? What would that look like? And so I got to the point where I realized personally, in my personality, I'm a builder. So I love to help people build things from the ground up. But once it's operationalized, man, you're ready to fly the plane and I'm ready to go build another plane. So for me, it was the passion of not only innovation and leadership, but helping people build things and helping them get them launched and off the ground. And so that was part of what caused me to found Innovation Meets Leadership, is that just that desire to help people rapidly scale, rapidly grow, and rapidly innovate in their industry, because that really is the biggest challenge of whether or not you will make it or break it, right? Is can you innovate? Can you think outside the box?
The podcast, why? What objectives did you had with it, and have you accomplished some of these objectives so far?
That's a great question. So when I started the podcast, I'm going to be super honest. I did not think I would reach anyone. I thought I'd maybe reach like 80 people in Atlanta. I called up all my friends and asked them if they wanted to be on my podcast. Really, when I started the podcast, I didn't have this unique, like, man, this is, I didn't have these massive goals. Now, fast forward, we're in season 4. It's been about a little bit over 3 years. We're in over 80 countries. So it's sad to say it, but like I didn't even see what the podcast could be. But this conversation about innovation, about leadership, about how to cultivate innovation in organizations, what kills innovation in organizations, I didn't realize that it would be such an interesting topic for so many people. And so I just really wanted to talk about leadership and innovation with people that I knew were already doing it and already successful in their space. And it's just kind of grown from there.
The book, how did you interlace that with the podcast, your other strategies, and what is it about?
Yeah. So the book is called Set It on Fire, The Art of Innovation. And really what I wanted to do is kind of give people a vantage point from the ground up about innovation. Here's one of the things about innovation. We oftentimes think of Steve Jobs or we think of Elon Musk, and we call those the innovators. And most people don't see themselves as an everyday innovator. And so what I really wanted to do with this book is bring the idea of innovation to the forefront for every single leader. And I believe in leadership at all levels, right? So if you're in an organization, you're leading in some capacity, sometimes really large capacity, sometimes smaller capacities, but everyone should see themselves as a leader. And if that's true, that means every leader in every organization needs to own innovation. So a lot of what I talk about is how can you as a leader own that in your space? What does it look like? What does it look like to push up innovation in an organization, if maybe it's not happening at the top, what does it look like to start that dialogue and have that conversation? And if you're a startup, what does it look like to build innovation from the ground up? And the secret of all of it is this: we have to put our customer at the center of everything we build if we want to be innovative and if we want to transform our way of thinking. We have to ask the customer, we have to talk to them, we have to know them well enough that we can build the right thing for them.
Innovation, I mean, yeah, Steve Jobs, and we see Walter Isaacson writing Elon's book as well. And often I reflect on these shapeshifters, these trailblazers of folks that are obsessed with some goals and have different ideas and are drastically different than most. What does it take to be an innovator? Is it something that comes naturally? Is it by being an idea machine a la James Altucher? And what is the value of having great ideas in a world that preaches execution all the time?
Yeah. I mean, that's such a great question. And I think that's why I think it's hard to have the conversation about innovation in many organizations, is because sometimes they focus so much on execution that innovation kind of dies. And so my premise is this: yes, there are some that are just born naturally innovative, but that's not who I'm talking to. I'm talking to the person that, you know, is sitting on the front line and doesn't believe that they have a voice in the bigger fight. I'm talking to the person who maybe is leading in middle management and sees ideas. They're getting ideas from their clients and customers, but they don't know what to do with them. They don't know how to see those ideas take flight. And I'm talking to the senior executive layer where typically, you know, they have the only innovative ideas, right? It kind of starts at the top and then trickles down. So how do you create a culture where everyone feels they own innovation? Because when you do that, you have people that show up like an owner, not a renter. Right now, you know, we have many people that show up to jobs every day and they're just renting until something better comes along. So when you cultivate innovation in an organization, you're able to create owners, not renters. And so much of this book talks about and leans into the fact that most people are not naturally innovative, but I give people frameworks on how to think outside the box. I give them frameworks on how to approach innovation and really how to bring their customer into the conversation, how to look at what their customer is doing day to day. A lot of times we don't realize that there are secrets in our product that lie in what the customer is doing. So they're using our product in unintended ways. They're having issues with our product that if we would just watch them work within our product, even for 10 minutes, we'd be like, oh, we're failing them in this area, and here's how they work around it. Here's the thing: any of those ideas, those become innovations. Those become things that we can thread throughout the organization. And if we get enough validation, we can build that not just for one customer, but for many. And that's really where the innovation piece comes in. So my goal is to make you an everyday innovator. Anyone can innovate. You just need the tools, you need the process and the systems to do it.
And then how do you juice out these ideas? I have an idea pipeline and I use cold email to test product market fit at scale. So I come up with 10 product ideas, 10 markets, and I crisscross them. And then I expect probably one success out of 100 campaigns, or hyper success, let me call it that way, something that really scales and I can double down on. How do you keep a healthy execution in an innovation pipeline?
Yeah. I mean, for me, the way that I think that needs to work is in iteration. So, you know, you have 10 ideas, like you said, you're iterating through all of them and you create milestones through all of them. So, you know, if my idea doesn't get to X place by this time, or if I don't get X amount of adoption, then I have one of two choices. I just need to say, hey, it failed. And failure should always trigger learning. Failure shouldn't be fatal, but it should trigger learning. I should go back and look at that. It may pass barely, so I need to go back and do more research, or it looks like it's going to be successful, so I need to push it forward. So one of the things I created in the book is a scorecard where you can actually walk your idea through some execution ramps and some different places where you can test it and try it and see if it actually has legs. Oftentimes where I see people fail is they try to ramrod something through that no one wants. And then they spend all this money, all this time, and all of this execution on something that was just simply a bad idea. And so if we can fail fast, then we can learn, we can go back to the drawing board. And so really what I've created is a product development process to take ideas through. And then I've created a scorecard to measure all ideas against. And so a big part of that is having the conversations with the right people along the way who are knowledgeable either about your space or about the specific product that you're trying to sell.
And often us ADHD founders, we ideate way too much and execute too few, like we suffer from FOMO big time. So how much innovation is too much innovation?
Yeah, I mean, that's a real question. One of the questions I ask in the book is like, in the last couple of years, do you have something new that you've launched that equates to at least 15% of your overall revenue? Because what I find is you're exactly right. We can have a lot of ideas, but if those ideas aren't turning into return on investment, then that idea may need to be taken out back and shot. And so a lot of what you're trying to figure out is what are the levers I need to pull to know if this is successful? Once it's successful, or I can show that it's going to have some legs in the market, when do I release it, right? When do I keep working on it? How do I continue to evolve that? So I talk a lot about that in the book, but for me, it really is a process of truly understanding the life cycle of the product itself. Some things live for 5 years, 10 years, and some live on even further than that. But you have to kind of understand when your product's peaking and then when it's declining. I think that's a big part of the conversation that I'm constantly having with founders who maybe hold on to something a little too long, whether it's an idea or a full-blown something they've launched, but it's starting to decline in the market. And the challenge is when, if you look at a bell curve and you're on one side or the other, when you're declining or when you're rising, it actually feels very similar. And so the worst thing you can do is have a ton of money and be investing it on the downside of a product. And so that's where founders really begin to fail, is when they're pouring money into something that's actually declining. So how do you even know, right, where your product sits in that bell curve is an important part of the conversation.
What examples of corporate giants do we see doing well on the innovation front? Because Apple is not, in my opinion, and Tesla is probably at the forefront when it comes to innovation. So what are clear or classic example we can look at, and what are they doing specifically to have a big ROI on that innovation?
Yeah, I mean, this is, to your point, when we look at the giants that we all typically look to, we are seeing that Apple's had a slow down in innovation. I mean, that's for sure. And we're all kind of waiting and watching to see, is there something behind the scenes that's coming? What are they doing? Because it doesn't really feel like the innovation engine is on at Apple. But I would say that, really, most of our attention right now is turned to the AI space. I mean, that really has been the hot topic. We've had tons of conversations around what is and is not going to be legal in that space, and what does this really look like for the future. As a matter of fact, I was reading this article about the wildfires that have been happening and how AI cranked out like 4 or 5 different books on it, published it, and they were all published under different names, but they were exactly kind of the same book. And so we're seeing kind of AI come to the forefront. There's many companies that I'm talking to that are leveraging it, integrating it into their working systems and their platforms and products, and that's successful. But there's also the side of it where it's like, hey, there could be some real downside to AI. There could be some real downside to this if we don't learn about it, regulate it, and figure out what is the dark side of AI. So I would say all of our attention as a society is focused there right now. I think that's also giving some other companies in the background an opportunity to begin to come forward and talk about what they're doing from an innovation standpoint.
So if we can sum this up, people using AI as a cure will not be advantaged in terms of innovation, and people using AI as a supplement, not a crutch, will benefit massively from an innovation perspective with AI.
That's a beautiful way of saying that. Yes, I do think that is going to underpin the next several years of when we look at innovation and where innovation comes from. And I think because of AI, we're going to find that it's coming from unexpected places because of the accelerant that AI provides.
Right. On your side, what are your top 3 goals this year?
Well, obviously I released a book, so my number one goal is to always sell more books. I mean, I think I love the conversation about innovation and infusing that into organizations. And you'd be surprised, because my number two is just to be speaking about innovation as much as I can. And one of the frustrating parts for me is when I'm talking to someone and they say, well, that's not really a topic for us. Innovation is not really a topic. And again, I think that there's many reasons behind that, but we have to put innovation at the forefront of what we're doing. Otherwise, our ideas are dead upon arrival. And then my third goal this year is just to be to really kind of own the consulting space for innovation. I mean, I think that not only is it an important conversation that we're having, but it's also important for us to infuse it into organizations, large and small.
Where can we find out more about you?
Yeah, so you can check my book out at setitonfire.co. And then you can follow me on almost any platform at Innovation Meets Leadership. And you can find me on LinkedIn at Natalie Bourne.
I'm Charles Cormier, host. That was another Founder Wisdom podcast.com with Natalie Bourne.